motion is that the bill be now read a second time. I call the member for Maitland.
Thank you, Mr. Temporary Speaker.
Order. Look, can I just clarify? There's going to be a lot of emotion, and I want everyone to be heard. Not even here. I don't want any interjections, please. Out of respect to everyone in this House, everyone in this debate. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Temporary Speaker, Deputy Speaker. And I want to say at the start of my contribution that this is one of the most difficult speeches I've ever had to write. While this bill is essentially about the right of women to access health services without being harassed or suffering emotional or physical violence, it touches on a deeply personal issue for many people. It is one of those issues where it is easy to cause offence and to appear to be judgmental of others. I come before you today, Mr. Speaker, with humility and respect for all who contribute to this debate. I ask that we all today think about the women who this bill is designed to protect, that we act with compassion, with respect and support for them in both our contribution and in our votes. It is so hard to walk the line between the personal and the political, but that very journey is the reason that we are here today. There will be people in this chamber who are strongly, philosophically and in their faith opposed to abortion, and there will be those who believe that each and every woman must have the ability to make that choice for herself. To exercise a conscience vote in this place is extraordinarily rare. I ask all members who exercise such a vote to ensure that they think about the women whose lives will be forever impacted by what we decide in here today. As the Honourable Adam Searle MLC said in the debate in the other place, the legislation we are debating today does not seek to stop protest, silent prayer or sidewalk counselling. It only says that people cannot do that in a particular space for reasons that are legitimate and appropriately adapted to the evil of harassment of individuals and to provide a safe zone. People can protest and have silent prayer vigils on the outskirts of the 150 metre zone. It does not stop them from protesting or having a prayer vigil. For those who do not wish to talk about abortion, who find it uncomfortable to hear some of the things that will be spoken about today, think about how you would feel if it was you walking towards an abortion clinic knowing that you were going to have undergo that procedure. Think about the harm conversations like this would have on you at that most terrible and vulnerable moment in your life when you have to make a difficult decision. At the centre of this bill, we are being asked as politicians to put aside our personal views to allow women to act in accordance with their own consciences, to make a decision based on their own beliefs, on their own circumstances, their own knowledge of their own journey into this decision. The journey that takes a woman to an abortion clinic doesn't start when she parks her car or even as she walks into the building. It doesn't start when she takes a pregnancy test. It doesn't start at the moment of conception. It doesn't start when she has sex. It doesn't start when she has a relationship with someone. It starts from the moment she is born as a woman, in the crucible of luck, genetics, nurturing and social and economic status which determine the circumstances of her life. Imagine some of these journeys. A young woman has been trying for some 18 months to have a baby with her partner. She is diagnosed with cancer and advised that the prescribed dosages of chemotherapy and radiotherapy will probably make her infertile. This is probably her last chance to have this much longed for baby, but having the baby may aggravate her cancer. It may even kill her. She's devastated. Another woman receives the joyous news that she is pregnant. However, just a few months later, she receives the terrible news that her baby has died in utero, but she has not miscarried. She is devastated. A young woman is sexually assaulted outside a nightclub. After a month or so, she realises she is pregnant. She doesn't know who the attacker was, She is still recovering from the physical and emotional violence of the sexual assault. She hasn't told anyone about it. She can't imagine how she can have a child. She's got no job, no support, nowhere to turn. She doesn't want this constant reminder of her trauma in a stranger's baby. She is devastated. A woman is in a violent relationship. Her partner has started to perpetrate violence against her during the pregnancy. At times, he has even kicked her in the stomach. She knows that if she is able to carry this baby to term, he will use the fact that he is the father of her child to continue a lifelong relationship of abuse, which may end with her death and that of the child. She is devastated. A woman has been using contraception. She doesn't want to become pregnant. The contraception fails. She becomes pregnant. The life she imagined for herself is gone. She is devastated. The journeys of these women and many like them have been difficult and unique. None of us, not one of us, knows for sure what decision we would make if we walked in any one of these women's shoes. And none of us, surely, should put ourselves in a position to judge her. And this goes to the heart of the bill today. Women come to this difficult decision from all perspectives, from all socioeconomic backgrounds, from all faiths and belief systems, from all situations, all locations, for all reasons. There is, in fact, in certainty, no woman in this world who has not ever asked herself at some or perhaps many stages in her life, what would I do if I became pregnant when I didn't have to have a baby? This is a decision that women who are sexually active make for themselves every month. For some people, this has been an idle thought, a challenge to their faith or beliefs, but for most who find themselves in the reality of that situation, it is a terrible decision that they have thought long and hard about. Everyone, every single person in this chamber knows a woman who has had an abortion. Everyone in this chamber knows how many women who have struggled with that very decision. Do we know who they are? Have we spoken to them about their decision? Is that a topic or a conversation which came easily to us if we did have it? In all likelihood, no, because it is one of the most private decisions a woman ever has to make. All of us in this place know that these decisions are personal and that there is a difference between the political and public life and the personal life. It's easy for any of us to make political or public statements of principle about what we think should or shouldn't happen. We can go to a rally, we can go to a protest, we can go to a prayer meeting, we can state a view. But on one level, none of us is really accountable for that view until we are in the situation of someone who's dealing with the situation themselves. We can say what we think we might do, and we might even believe that until we are in that situation ourselves, because there is no real consequence until we're in that situation of us holding that view. When we do find ourselves in that situation, we then find that there are often other issues impacting on us. In all of those circumstances that I outlined before, there may be medical or technological or social supports that would be available to those women. But we don't know what actually was available for that woman in that situation. Just like the women I spoke about before, maybe the child they wanted will cause their death. Maybe the pregnancy has already ended. Maybe they are in fear of their own or their future child's life at the hands of a violent partner. Maybe they are in fear of a terrible lifelong trauma and a reminder of an assault. Because this is where it gets messy. Because all of us come from different backgrounds, we all have different situations, and life is complex and messy and difficult. And we all have different resources available to us in support networks, in government services, but even within ourselves to be able to deal with it. Whilst we all have our own personal views about abortion, even if we try to imagine ourselves in those women's shoes, we can't really know what we would do until we have faced their situation ourselves. And this is the difference between the personal and the political. We must respect the right of a woman who is making this incredibly difficult and personal decision to make that decision without being harassed, intimidated, interfered with, threatened, hindered, obstructed, or impeded in any way when accessing or attempting to access or leave a reproductive health clinic where abortions are offered. We must respect the right of a woman to make a decision without someone who has no knowledge about her personal circumstances judging her, showing her terrible images, photographing her, or even acting in a way that would make her feel even worse about a choice that she has made. To assume that a woman would even go into an abortion clinic without thinking deeply about this topic is deeply disrespectful to women. It undermines women's power over ourselves, our agency, our thoughtfulness, and our intelligence. It is completely disrespectful and takes away our dignity. We must ensure in this place that women, their partners, and the staff who are there to support them are safe and have dignified access to clinics where abortions and other reproductive services may be provided. It is important to note that these clinics don't just provide abortions, that they provide other services. They offer an avenue for women to obtain information regarding contraception, to receive counselling services, to look after their sexual health, even for men in some cases to receive vasectomies in a safe, supportive and non-judgmental environment. What right has anyone to judge or assume what these women or their partners are attending these clinics for? I have spoken to a number of people on all sides of politics in this place about this bill, and some have raised concerns with me, and I think it's important to take an opportunity to address those. Firstly, some people have said to me that they think perhaps the law already stops women from being harassed. Unfortunately, the reality in New South Wales is that the current laws do not protect women from harassment or intimidating practices when they access these health and legally health facilities. We have seen many cases of this in Albury and Surrey Hills, and I know that the Honourable Penny Sharp and a lot of people have talked about that in their speeches. I know that Kate Washington has had a lot of experience of that in Albury, and she'll speak to that in her bill. So I won't go through it here. But I want to make the point, I struggle to think of any other health facility or situation where you would be harassed or intimidated just because you have gone there to seek professional advice. Women and their partners are exposed to disturbing practices and images while attempting to access these clinics. We've heard stories, we've seen the media footage of people being attacked or having their access physically blocked by the protest groups. When the police try to take action against such protesters, they have vexatious complaints levelled against them. Nowhere else in our society would we and do we tolerate such behaviour. So I ask, why have we allowed this to continue for so long? Today is the opportunity to stop that once and for all. The other question that some people have asked me is, don't these sidewalk counsellors have a right to help these women? As someone who trained as a counsellor, I am grossly offended by the term sidewalk counsellors. I am grossly offended by it. I cannot stress that enough. A professional counsellor would never, on any issue, seek to guide someone to a decision. People should rather be empowered to make the best decision for themselves. The idea that someone thrusting a plastic fetus or a graphic photo in someone's face, telling them that they are praying for them or that they are a baby murderer, are all actions designed to intimidate women. They are completely against any principle of counselling. It is a terrible form of emotional abuse of women who are often at their lowest point. And I understand there are people in this place of all faiths, and I myself grew up in the Catholic Church. But if somebody came up to me and told me that they were praying for me in that moment in a way that was designed to tell me that I was should not be doing what I was doing, to try and persuade me away from it, I would take that as the worst affront and assault, because it's not a physical assault, it's not a sexual assault, it's not an emotional. This is actually an assault on my faith, and I think that is completely wrong. These actions cause a heightened sense of anxiety and cause distress to those subjected to abuse. Unfortunately, the tactics employed by these so-called sidewalk counsellors jeopardise any efforts to support pregnant women by shaming all women and their partners and the staff who enter. I'm concerned that these women may turn away from the services offered and potentially compromise their sexual, physical and mental health as a consequence of political tactics such as filming, overtly preying and judging them. As the Honourable Penny Sharp, MLC, who I acknowledge in the chamber now, quoted the practice manager at the practice in Surrey Hills. When our clinic opened in Surrey Hills, the first thing we noticed was how distressed women were after being intimidated and harassed by those gathered out the front of the clinic. When these people are not present, women arrive at the clinic calm and showing no visible signs of distress or sadness. But when women arrive after having been confronted, they are emotionally shattered, often trembling or breaking down in tears as they approach the front desk. These women tell us that this isn't sadness at having an abortion, it's distress at having their privacy violated at such a sensitive and emotional time. Another issue that's been raised has been around the impact of this legislation on free speech. Comments vary from concern that this bill could impinge on the protesters' ability to speak freely or protest or pray. As I've said earlier, these are not the objects of the bill and they do nothing to stop people doing those outside their access zone. To those who are concerned that this bill impedes on their right to express their views and ideologies, I say to you that you are entitled to your opinion, but equally the women and staff accessing these reproductive health facilities have a right to do so. And I also acknowledge at this point the Honourable Trevor Khan, who's also in the chamber today from the other place, who addressed this issue, I think, very well in the other place when he said sidewalk counsellors are not standing outside hotels, gay bars, lesbian nightclubs, TABs or at the front of tobacconists. They're not standing outside brothels or adult bookshops, hospitals, hospices or cancer care clinics. These sidewalk protesters are not protesting, they are not exercising free speech, they are not counselling, they are harassing and targeting a group of the most vulnerable women in our community at what is probably the most vulnerable time in their lives. I endorse the Honourable Trevor Khan's comments that those who purport to be protectors of free speech were notably silent when Minister Roberts, the then Minister for Industry, Resources and Energy, introduced the Enclosed Lands, Crime and Law Enforcement Legislation Interference Bill in 2016. Are we at the stage now in New South Wales that we put women's rights behind those of mining companies, gas wells, coal loaders, farmers and small businesses in New South Wales? As the Honourable Penny Sharp mentioned in the other place, we have a 300-metre exclusion zone for whales migrating up the coast of New South Wales at the moment. Are we at a stage in New South Wales where we have put women's rights behind those of whales? These are echoes of the rally cry of the very first female member of this place who was unsuccessful in advocating for a chair of obstetrics and gynaecology at one of our universities, but noted that there was a chair of equine obstetrics. Her campaign was equal rights for women as what horses have. I want to take a moment to talk about the penalties because I note some of the amendments that are coming through are addressing this issue, and that has been a concern. Under the proposed bill, any people convicted of violating these rules will face 50 penalty units, $5,000 fine or 6 months from the first offence, or 100 penalty units, that is $11,000 or 12 months. The maximum prison term would only be possible if it was a perpetrator's second or more offence. This may seem harsh to some, but not to me when I think about what they are putting those women through. The people that this bill is designed to deal with are not people who are concerned about abortion. They are people who have been particularly recalcitrant when it has come to imposing their views, their violence, their abuse, their intimidation and harassment on vulnerable and innocent women. They are people who have bullied and harassed members of the public going about their private business, against health workers who are doing their jobs, against police enforcing the law. No one's stopping these people going 160 metres away from the clinic and having a pray. No one's saying, you know, you can't steal a loaf of bread to feed your family. This is not something that people have to do or is part of their needs. There is no compulsion on them to protest within the 150 metre zone. The protesters can act in accordance with their private and their personal religious beliefs and faith without impinging on the private and personal rights of women to make their own personal and private decisions. The very basis of their actions is an assumption that any woman deciding to have an abortion has decided this on a whim and walked into the nearest clinic to go and get one. But these are decisions that women, as I've said before, take very seriously and carefully. And the trauma that those women who suffer this abuse at the hands of these protesters is appalling. It is the thing they will carry with them for life. Finally, I just want to mention the High Court case. In the other place, there was much debate, and I did read all of the contributions that were made in that place, and it was about, along the lines of, we should wait until the High Court makes its decision and then we could legislate. I don't even want to go into the legal discussions about sovereignty of New South Wales and all that sort of stuff. I think here we make the laws and then we do what we believe is the right thing to represent our community, and then we let the courts sort it out their way. But we are clear on what we want. I'm not a lawyer though, so I take advice on that. But some people have wanted to wait. If we want further proof, however, that approaching someone outside an abortion clinic is not exercising free speech or political communication, look at what is happening with that case. Australia's Solicitor General and the Attorney Generals of Western Australia, South Australia, Queensland and indeed New South Wales have all made submissions to the High Court in support of safe access zones. In a submission filed on behalf of the Attorney General dated the 25th of May this year, the government stated that the purpose of Section 185D is not merely to protect persons from offence, hurt feelings or transient emotional responses. It is designed to protect persons who are likely to be in an emotionally vulnerable state from emotional and psychological harm arising from the communications, and to ensure that they are not deterred from accessing medical services. The importance of the purpose is underlined by the history of anti-abortion protest activity in Victoria. We need to look at this activity in the context in which it occurs, and we need to call it out for what it is: violence, harassment and intimidation of women. I urge all members of the House, when they are making their decision, to consider this. We are not acting to curtail free speech or political communication. We are not stopping people from praying or holding their faith, and we are not imposing overly harsh penalties on people who do not want to harm others. We are simply setting boundaries around places where women are undergoing health procedures that have some of the most difficult add-on experiences, if you like, of their lives. We're saying no to violence, no to harassment, and no to intimidation against women. We are drawing a line between private decisions and faith and the public opinions and protest movements. I asked people what they would think if they themselves were subject to these kinds of abuses at a vulnerable time. Of course, it's easy to say, what would my daughter think? What would my niece think, or my granddaughter, or whatever? Think about if it was you. For those members who had to walk past those protesters today, who feel uncomfortable. I've spoken to a member yesterday who just was completely uncomfortable even discussing this. Imagine how you would feel if you were actually going for an abortion. I was respectful. I said, okay, that's fine, let's not discuss it. Walk away. That person did not go into a clinic to have an abortion. We have to have the right place to have these conversations. This is the right place to have this conversation. This bill is about stopping the violence, the abuse, the harassment and intimidation. The reality is that the current laws in New South Wales do not protect women from harassment or intimidating practices, and in 2018 that is completely incomprehensible. I struggle to think of any other health facility or situation where you'd be harassed or intimidated just because you'd gone there to seek professional advice. To those who are concerned that the bill impedes on your right to express your views and ideologies, you're entitled to your opinion, but your opinion doesn't give you the right to stop women and staff accessing these facilities. In conclusion, I would like to thank so many people who have brought this to fruition. I particularly want to thank the Honourable Penny Sharp, who has steered the most difficult ship ever, and who has provided great advice to all of us in this debate. I thank Trevor Khan for his work and Leslie Williams, the member for Port Macquarie, for the work they have done to get this to this place. It's really important work. I want to thank Family Planning, particularly Claire Pullen, for the work she's done. The CWA, particularly Annette Turner, is an amazing woman and a great advocate for women in regional New South Wales. New South Wales nurses and midwives, the Women's Electoral Lobby, particularly Mary O'Sullivan and Josepha, who I think I see up there, and there might be more, but I haven't got my glasses and I can see Mary, and the AMA. I commend the bill to the House, But in finally closing, I want to say we are all very quick to protect our own rights. I'm asking all members in this place to think of others, to protect their rights, to protect the rights of the women we see before us who have to make these decisions. Thank you.
Mr. Speaker.
Question is that this bill be